It's come to my attention that when someone waits a long period of time for something that ends up being massively disappointing is a big theme that goes along with this channel, basically. And when you wait, 2 or 3 months for something and it comes out unfinished and boring and really not that interesting, you kind of regret waiting that length of time for it. Was I talking about this channel? Oh no, I wasn't. I was talking about Just Cause 4. So this new Nitalics spectacle, if you will, is Nitalics Natters, which is an idea I had while taking a shit, which ironically is probably what's going to end up on the screen for you. This discussion, as I have stated, is about Just Cause 4 and the death of the hype that was brought to me from E3 promotion and trailers and gameplay that I'd seen. Just Cause 4 to me is a game that was lost in a world of sandbox. As I stated in several of my videos now, because I've got a more sandbox-based theme in my videos, the series is just another to add to the pile. There's nothing unique about it like Red Dead 2 and the life that that game had, but it also just doesn't have anything to show itself off within its own games. You've got Just Cause 1, 2, 3 and 4 now, and there's no advancement between Just Cause 3 and Just Cause 4 besides some gimmicks. I want to take this discussion in two ways, since there are technically two ways that I have seen of looking at this game. One was mentioned by a lot of other YouTubers about how to play it, and the other is the same. There is just two ways of looking at this game. One, as a game, a video game with story and gameplay and sort of meshing all of the aspects of a game together to create this £45-50 game within it, all the aspects of a video game. The other way you can look at Just Cause 4 is as a sandbox or a toy box. A bit like the way I look at it is a bedroom, in that you have all your toys in a big space of your own, but there's no story given to you, there's no gameplay given to you. It's what can you make with the things you've been given. It's not a game, it's just a place with a lot of things in it. There's no stories within it. You create your own stories. It doesn't just give you a story. To be honest, that franchise has never given you a story. It's been nothing. There's just no story to it. Not in any of the games. Just Cause 2 had the most story-like story, I guess. Now, starting off as a game, Just Cause 4 is bad. And from me, that's very disappointing, because it's one of, if not my favourite series, as I stated in the previous video. There's no substance to the story whatsoever, as always. It's just about some guy who can control the weather and you've got to stop him and save the people of Solis, and that's about it. And ironically, the fact that he can control the weather and the weather aspects within the game are really dumbed down from what I thought the game would actually have. I mean, you've got your tornadoes and your sandstorms and your blizzards and stuff, but they're, procedurally generated in random places, and I don't think they're even random, because I've only ever seen a tornado in one place, which is around a little mine to the north of the capital city, and that's about it. It's like in a little grassland area. I haven't even been to the desert yet, because I got too bored. None of it is substantial enough to create a game. For PS4, which is what I play it on, it's dry, it looks really flat. The colours especially just give it a really grainy and sort of just grey feel. There's no colour in it. Just Cause 3, although set in, a Mediterranean sort of island, had the blue seas and the blue sky and all these colourful buildings around. Just Cause 4 is just a lot of jungle, and it's just a lot of green and grey. Even the water is just this grey slush within the game. You've got the sea that surrounds this massive island of just no things, and all of it looks exactly the same, water-wise, land-wise. There's no correlation between what's in the biomes that you've been given. You've got the odd landmark, like the capital city, which still doesn't even come close to the size of the 4 cities you get in Just Cause 2. It's a bit more of an improvement on the capital city in Just Cause 3, since that was much more of a it was just a big town with one kind of large building in it and a port. That was it. Whereas in this one, you've got 2 large buildings. One of them looks like it's actually been designed by a person, and the rest is just flat, boring, and has a stadium in it. I think that's that. Yeah, the stadium and that weird sort of teardrop on the top of that Dubai hotel sort of looking thing. I mean, that's about all you're going to get variety-wise in buildings. The land itself just looks really flat and quite dumbed down from the last couple of games. Although, yes, they say it's diverse in terms of altitude now. That may have been designed for the wingsuit, and I can understand that. But Just Cause 3 was the same. You could tell that the land was designed to complement how the wingsuit worked around the world. You know, it had a sense of height to it, so you could jump off a mountain and wingsuit all the way down over that, or over the mine in Montana and stuff like that, in that big biome. And just over all the places in Just Cause 3, you have that sense of height, whereas in Just Cause 4 they just advertised the fact that it's got altitude to it now. I mean, Just Cause 1 had mountains. I don't see how a sense of altitude gives you a bigger map. It just gives you more stuff to fly, I guess. You get more planes. Yeah, the variety of vehicles is fine in terms, if we're moving on to that, the variety of vehicles is fine, but there's no need to use them apart from challenges that don't matter anymore. The difference now that I found in gameplay wise is that challenges have been moved from a side activity like they were in Just Cause 3 and 2, like races and stuff, and you can earn extra upgrades from that. They have become an integral part of the gameplay, like these wingsuit challenges and driving a certain speed, and you do that to unlock sort of grapple advancements. And although 1 or 2 of them are quite interesting, when you have to do 10 of them in like 3 places just to unlock one thing, it just becomes dull and repetitive and really, really monotonous. And ironically, for a Just Cause game, the excitement is outweighed by the monotony. The missions are boring and samey in that you just have to move some levers a couple of times, got to escort some people, and you'd think that a game with such variety in its explosives and its vehicles and the wingsuit and all the stuff, all the little aspects of the game that make it interesting, you'd think they want to design levels based upon those key elements. But instead, it's just generic third-person shooting and defense against vehicles and stuff. And you think, why? You have so much potential with what you've got. You could be placed in an arena and trapped, and all you have is, your grapple, and you have to find a way to get out with your balloons and the retractor, just with the items you've got within this little building. It's simple, but it uses what you've been given within the game to do those challenges, whereas in these you just drive somewhere, or you just fly into a little ring, or you just use your wingsuit to go through some holes, and it's just monotonous. So map wise it's dull and flat, gameplay wise it's dull and flat, vehicle wise and sort of enjoyment wise with said vehicles, it dies so quickly because the missions don't give you anything to go on, the story is non-existent, and once you've played with these aspects of the grapple a couple of times for missions, you know what they're going to do, and the more you unlock, yes, you just repeat that same feeling. You think, oh, this is interesting, you do it a few times, and then you've seen it all. So there's no exploration with the material anymore. There's exploration in the map, but I don't see what's the point, because you find some Easter eggs, but you can just find them online anyway, which is ironically what one of them is about. You've got the what is it, getting it up or something? No, that's not what it's called. You had the getting over it Easter egg in Just Cause 4, which said like, oh, you're probably watching this online. Yeah, you probably are, because what's the point in looking for it? There's no thought into the map, I don't think. It's very similar to Just Cause 2 in its different biomes, but Just Cause 2 had character, whereas Just Cause 4 is just bland. So as a game, it's very monotonous and not even remotely unique in the market that it's trying to sell, which ironically it was one of the leaders of the open world genre, as we saw. Just Cause was the biggest of its time, and then Just Cause 2 expanded on that idea, adding so much more to it, and was one of the biggest selling games of 2010. And being a pioneer of that genre, you'd think they'd have a grasp on it by now, but apparently not. And then comes the toy box theory, if it's a theory or whatever you call it. If Just Cause 4 is not a game, then what is it? It is a toy box. It's a set of little pieces that you can play with and mess around with until you get bored, and then you can come back and do it again. And there will be arguments to say that that's just every game, because it's just a lot of set pieces and then you come back and play it a bit more. But a lot of other games have depth and story, and that's what keeps you engaged, whereas Just Cause 4 has some things, like some items that have physics, and then you can move them with a balloon, or you could move them with a grapple, or you can set rockets to them, and then you repeat and repeat and repeat, and you'll see the graphics go mad even though they're already terrible, and you'll see all of it just mess around, things will glitch. But as much as that's a bit of fun, that's not a game, and that's not what you spend £45 on. You spend that money on a game that enriches your gaming life, and the fun that you have, and just general enjoyment out of video gaming. And when you're given just a toy box with some stuff in it, you wonder why you spent that much money on it. You know, I've seen the Just Cause 4 Gold Edition selling for nearly 80 quid, and you think, what more can you get out of that? What does it give you that the other one doesn't? Just some extra stuff to play with. But then that same monotony will kick in, but you've spent double on it. I think the disappointment that came with Just Cause 4 is certainly a shame, because there was a lot of interest behind it, certainly from me and from a lot of other people. And although it is a lot of fun in some areas and some cases, that will not last. All it needed was some finesse and polish, and it would have been a welcome part of the series. But it was rushed out. It was a game that nobody plays anymore and everyone's forgotten about, and it's a shame. Basically, Just Cause 4 did a No Man's Sky, and we all know how that's turned out.